Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm meteorologist Joe Cioffi on this Wednesday morning, the 3rd of January, 2018, as we wait for what will be the impending arrival of a storm moving up the East Coast. And overnight weather models have continued this almost very slow, very methodical westward shift with the track certainly enough to warrant winter storm warnings for the coastal areas where I am, Long Island, coastal New Jersey, on up through much of Connecticut into southeastern New England. And those warnings also extend southward down into Delaware and into Virginia. In fact, it is a really extensive area that is under a winter storm warning this morning, up and down to Florida. Just it's astounding to see that that far to the south. And I'll pull up the National Weather Service warning map at the moment, and you just don't see this very often. And you can thank the fact that we had all this Arctic air. We also have blizzard warnings up for parts of down East Maine and also for parts of southeastern New England. This actually may wind up changing over to rain on Cape Cod for at least a little while. But you can see the extent of the warning area here goes all the way down, right down the coast into coastal Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, northeastern Florida. I mean, how often do you see winter storm warnings up for northeastern Florida? That is just incredible in and around the Jacksonville area. Now, I'm going to bring up the satellite loop before we go to the new NAM model run, which is coming out now. And then we'll go, I'll show you what the overnights did with regards to that, because they actually would argue for a larger extent of heavier snows out of this. But we'll get to that in a second. You can see the energy here that's involved on the satellite loop. The northern stream energy is dropping down through the western Great Lakes and pivoting around. And you can also see that southern stream energy now moving across the southeastern states. And low pressure is starting to develop just east of the Florida coast. Where this low surface low winds up developing, if it's one main low, which apparently now models seem to have kind of focused on the idea that it's going to be one low rather than a couple of low centers, at least initially. It also seems to be focusing in on the low that was on the westernmost side of this envelope. And as a result, I think that's one of the reasons why we've seen these tracks come in further and further west. The GFS is that way. The European is also that way during the overnight. It's finally gotten around to beefing up precipitation amounts. I was having conversations with some of my colleagues, and it seems that perhaps this might be an instance where the shorter range mesoscale models, the one that focus on the real, tight detail here, may be a much better route to use than the global models. And those mesoscale models are pretty bullish. And perhaps because this cyclone is being shown to be so intense, I mean, it really, we're talking about pressures that are down for a mature hurricane here, that perhaps the mesoscale models have a much better notion of what happens when you look at the radar signature on some of these models. In fact, I'll bring up the NAM3 from last night, because we can at least with the NAM3 take a good look at the satellite radar presentation from this. And let's just get it back to the beginning, the first frame. And we'll put the radar and satellite here. Okay, so we'll follow this along and look at the development of this cyclone, and also look at that area of rain and snow right up the coast. And the lows gets that classic comma shape signature on the satellite and radar. And whenever you see that comma shape, that is a well-developed, well-wrapped-up system, as this is. And there might even be eventually, in terms of what you see on the satellite presentation, a very small an eye that'll probably form of some kind, where the center will be so tight that it may wind up being looking like an eye on the satellite. Now, here's what the satellite radar is supposed to look like at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, with snow everywhere from southern New Hampshire all the way down into eastern North Carolina. And you can see where the circulation is, the low that's being indicated here. Just by the radar echoes, you can pick it out. This is really very impressive here of how the model is forecasting this to look. And notice the darker blues. These are very strong echoes that are being predicted here by the 3-kilometer NAM model over Long Island and touching coastal New Jersey. The back edge also gets pretty far into eastern Pennsylvania. And I think is probably the toughest part of the forecast for me, was that back edge, because in a tight storm like this, usually the back edge gets pulled eastward, and you basically go a matter of miles from 0 to 6 inches in terms of accumulation. And pushing that back edge to the west would suggest to me that the back edge of the 6-inch line is also going to be pushed back to the west. And here it is on the NAM3. I mean, this is really well inside the 40 and 70 benchmark. Heavy snows all from Delaware on up into southern New England. And in fact, it might even change. This is at now at 2 in the afternoon on Thursday, still going, and then gradually starting to wind down as we move into tomorrow evening, and then on up into Nova Scotia. And this is going to come in over or just west of Nova Scotia. The way that this model plays it out, it may be mostly a rain and wind event, although there will be some snow at the start, and they'll be cold enough at least at the start for a band of moderate to heavy snow to go through, and then a changeover to rain is going to happen, and wind and rain will be especially, I think, will be the bigger issue for Nova Scotia. And it actually even changes it over to rain in down East Maine on the 3-kilometer NAM. I don't know if that's really a realistic view, but it is something to consider if you're going to take a system that far up to the left. Look at these snow amounts that the 3-kilometer NAM showed last night, a large area of 1 foot plus snows. I am not ready to really jump off this deep end. The regular NAM did the same thing, by the way. I'm not ready to jump off this deep end yet as far as snow amounts are concerned, but I certainly expect every bit of 6 to 10 inches out of all of this. And I wouldn't be surprised. There are going to be some 1 foot plus amounts in some places, but this is not exactly a surprise that we're getting this. So we're going to be, we can update on the fly. And notice the extent of the snow going all the way down into northeastern Florida. This is just, you just don't see this very often at all, if at all. Okay, so that was the NAM3 from overnight, the mid-cycle run. So I'm going to, let's go to the new NAM and see where we're going. And there we go. We should have a fair amount of it out, but as you notice, it's taking a long time to load, which is probably indicative of the fact that everybody is getting on this at the same time. So we'll just let it load. I'll try the NAM 12. Why don't we go to the NAM 12 first? Maybe that'll... They can't be looking at both NAMs at the same time. Okay. All right. So this is actually, it's out through 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So this is the snow map through 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And you can see that the new NAM it still has 6 inches plus in that purplish area and some 1 foot plus amounts in eastern North Carolina to the Outer Banks, and also in coastal South Carolina showing some 1 foot plus snows. I mean, I don't know how real that is without actually, from forecasting, without actually doing a deep hands-on analysis, I can only, have time to kind of look at what the map is doing, but you can see just how impressive this is. So why don't we go to the precip? It's just getting started here, so we're getting that 1/2 inch of liquid here by tomorrow morning. And I'm going to just go to the tight view. I'm sorry, let me just go back to the wider view. And we'll put the surface map on. Wow. Amazing, isn't it? All right, so I'm rolling it back to the beginning here. And there's your surface low. Sometimes I don't know why the model, the way it comes out, where the low jumps around a little bit. But this model's very consistent. The low center looks to me, I'm just going to try to get a latitude, longitude reading on it as best I can. So it's at 38.5 and 70 and 38.5 and about 70.3. From here, very close to the benchmark. I mean, it's basically at 40 and 70 here, so very close to the benchmark, and then and very deep. And now we are at, time-wise, this is at 4 p.m. Snows are starting to get that very cold, that bitter cold, dry air that's going to come in behind this, and you'll start to see the snow start to thin out in my area at least, but still going strong. And the NAM 12, by the way, does try to bring in some rain into down East Maine, but it keeps it pretty much snow everywhere else. I think it also changes it to rain on Cape Cod, and brings the rain snow line briefly close to Montauk on Long Island. So that's another thing. The fact that the low is now close to 40 and 70, everything kind of shifts to the west, and that includes the rain snow line, but that will then collapse afterward once the low goes by. You can see how tight the gradient is. I mean, they're going to be gusts of 50 and 60 miles an hour out of this when the low goes by. So where it's snowing heavily, you will have blizzard conditions, I would think, for at least a couple of hours with heavy snow and blowing snow. Remember, snow, blizzard, and does not necessarily mean a foot or more of snow. It's heavy snow for a 3-hour period with visibilities of a 1/4 of a mile or less, and I think you're going to see that. They used to have a temperature criteria as well, which made blizzards rare. You'd have to have temperatures basically under 20, but they took they took away that criteria. The meaning in people's minds of what a blizzard is has changed over the years. All right, so let's look at what the NAM 3 is doing. And let me bring that up. NAM 3. Okay, we only have out to 19 hours on the NAM 3. All right, let's go back to the NAM 12. And okay, so that's as far as we have on the NAM. Let's look at the precip, total accumulated precip. This is through 1 o'clock. The dark green is 4/10 of an inch of liquid, so it has every bit of a 1/2 inch of liquid just west of New York City, and then goes southwest across New Jersey into southeastern Pennsylvania. And notice for Long Island, we're talking, 1.25 inch, 1.5 amounts. My guess is, eyeballing this, there's probably going to be a little bit more precip added for another couple of hours afterward. That the NAM may have given a little bit less, but it gave well over an inch of liquid to New York City last night, and 3/4 of an inch of liquid to Philadelphia. So if it comes in a little bit, I wouldn't be too surprised about that. But I don't think it's going to really change too much as far as what's happening is concerned. And again, through 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we're looking at, this area basically shows 6-inch plus snows. And the whitish areas we're starting to get into, the 9 to 12 amounts, and you can see also the heavier amounts for southeastern Massachusetts. So again, a pretty formidable system that we're dealing with, and it's going to move right along. And of course, the next thing behind this is going to be the brutally cold air that's coming in for Friday and for the weekend. I'm thinking on Friday that it may drop. By Friday morning, it's going to be down in a lot of these areas in the single digits and probably not get much above 10 or the low teens, which is incredible when you think about it. And we'll be down near or below zero in many locations, I think, Saturday morning and again on Sunday morning. So let me bring you into the conversation and move myself to the top here. Okay, let me right off the bat. Michael Yorusi, David Schwartz, Nick Cortese, and Mahogany 2680. Thank you so much, guys, for hitting Super Chat this morning. Really appreciate it. It's going to be a big hot chocolate coming from me in just a little bit. And hopefully everybody is doing whatever you need to do with regards to preparation. NAM David Fuller, NAM 3, 20 inches for me in Middletown, New Jersey. You know what? Let's take the NAM 3 and just to be reasonable, cut it in half. And even if you cut it in half, you're talking about a pretty sizable snowfall here. And that's the way I'm going to go. Nick Cortese, a 12-inch plus snowfall for Suffolk County. Sure, I don't see why that can't happen. I'm kind of going in the range of 9 to 12. Yeah, could it wind up being over a foot? Absolutely. And we're going to have wind gusts of 40 to 50 miles an hour tomorrow. So we're going to see blizzard conditions here. James NASCAR fan, good morning to you. Nadia Post, Fallen Angel, Cynthia Guignautis, good morning. Thank you. We need some luck. I got to spend the night close to. I'm going to be at my mom's house because it's literally 5 minutes from where I work during the day. So because I'm not going to be driving in this nonsense. Let's see. Garo Vestas, watching you on my break. Glad to see you this morning. Thank you. That's so cool. You take a work break and you throw on the YouTube live stream. I used my wand and created this snowstorm, 99 wolves. Well, I will say this. Well, two things. It's just kind of funny. I had to change it this time around, but the last three storms, when I drew my early call snow forecast maps, they came out almost perfectly, and that was like really scary. Okay, I always had this Twilight Zone episode involving in my mind involving a weather person, and being able to change the weather wherever he wanted, and just by drawing it on the graphic, it would come through, and the moral dilemma that evolves from that. So it was just kind of scary with those. But I did have to change it from my original call. I did raise my amounts. I'm basically going 3 to 6 west of the coast and back to about Philadelphia, including New York City, and 6 to 9 just east of New York City, and 9 to 12 from Suffolk County, central and eastern Connecticut eastward. I didn't want to go hog wild with all the big numbers, but as I said, if you take the NAM 3 and cut it in half, you still come up with a pretty sizable snowfall. Carl White's the SREF models, the brand new ones that I looked at just before we went on with the live stream, did go up again after coming down a little bit yesterday and last night. They did jump up again in the mid-cycle run. In the new run that I just posted a little while ago, right before the NAM came out. So, they're kind of all lining up. I think from here on in, I wouldn't expect too much change. The models have seemed to have really grabbed on to this notion that we're going to see the low travel take a course just close enough to produce a fairly substantial snowstorm for the Northeast. And I don't know that we're going to see that much change from here. I would be shocked if it suddenly went, all the way to the right. The GEFs, the ensembles on the GFS, also all came left, and they're all very clustered around that benchmark. So, I think it's a pretty good. The numbers that we're seeing are pretty good in terms of the overall forecast. Moneymaker 1028. Thank you for hitting super chat this morning. Really appreciate it. Going to get this. Let's see. I've got enough to get myself a hot chocolate cigar and a little bit of breakfast at some point. Thank you, guys. It's very generous of you. I really appreciate it. Ben McGinnis, Environmental Canada, actually saying that in Halifax it's going to start to snow and then rain and back to snow and hit at high tide. Yes, I agree with that very much. I mentioned that earlier. Judging from how the NAM model is handling this and what's going on, you are going to see it go from snow to rain. And I think you're going to see wind gusts on the order of 50 to 60 knots. In fact, you may even see sustained winds of 50 knots with gusts to, perhaps as high as hurricane force as the storm comes in. And coming in at high tide, we just had a full moon, and there's going to be, tides are going to run pretty high up your way, and there will be some coastal flooding with this. Nick Cortese, I only see if a chance that maybe on the Twin Forks briefly there could be a little bit of a mix, but I'm not seeing it anywhere else, because by the time we get past tomorrow, say 8 or 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, as that wind starts to bend around toward the north, that bitter cold air that's to our north and west is going to start coming in. That's the one thing you just got to be a little careful of on the western side, is that the bitter cold dry air that's going to be coming down will start to eventually deteriorate the western edge of the snow, and that might cause that might have some impact in snow accumulation, and that could be why we saw the NAM on its precipitation depiction have just like looked like a little bit of a chunk of moisture was taken out on the northwest flank, and that could be because of some drier, colder air coming in. But on the other side of that argument is back in early December, we had a similar situation like this, and it didn't quite play out that way up in eastern Pennsylvania, where the banding developed, and that's where the dry air was supposed to just pretty much put an end to any kind of snowfall, and you folks there wound up with 7 or 8 inches. How long has it been, Philip DiStefano? How long has it been since we've seen this long stretch of cold weather? We were trying to rack our brains out last night on a number of levels with this Arctic air mass and this jet stream and what it's caused in terms of the longevity of the cold, which started really right around Christmas Day for here, for the coast, a little sooner in areas to the west and north. We've seen some streaks, like in Albany, for example. I believe we're at 7 days in a row that temperatures went below zero. Here down where I am, we've already had, I believe, 6 days where temperatures did not get out of the teens at all. And that's the record is 11 that was set in 1917. We're going to probably have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 3 more. So that'll bring us to 9. So we might have a shot for that particular record in the New York City area. And inland areas have actually had a couple of extra days where temperatures didn't get out of the teens. And we're going to have possibly 2 days here this weekend where temperatures won't be getting out of the single digits. Coastal flood advisory just went up for Long Island. Thank you, Iron Mine 10. Going to have to update everything with regards to that. Ian Simpson, Belfast Airport, so up in Ireland, severe gales and winds of 40 knots gusting to 60. We did see that there was a low center that was moving by to your north yesterday on the GFS model, and that's probably that is the reason why you're getting the strong winds. That low is going to be pulling away, and weather conditions should start to improve. 84-knot gusts at Knock Airport last night. Wow, that's incredible. Don't be surprised. Ben, was it Ben McGinnis? McGinnis, yes. You got to see some gusts up your way up in Nova Scotia to hurricane force. 969 pressure for Ian Simpson's storm up in the UK, and we've got the one for tomorrow that's going to get down into the 940s. That's pretty rare for this area. Local forecast: 20 to 30 millimeters of rain and 20 centimeters of snow. Yeah, that sounds about right. Depending on how long you hold on to the cold air before a changeover, and then whatever you get on the backside. David Fuller, the winds are going to be a bigger issue tomorrow along the immediate coast as opposed to inland areas. So along the coast, the Jersey Shore, I think you're going to see gusts of 40 to 50 miles an hour, and on Long Island, possibly 50 to 60, especially over eastern Long Island. Nick Cortez, you're trying to push numbers on the high end here. Look, when you get past, in my mind, after about 10 inches, it's all a bonus. So, is it possible? I guess it could be, but I wouldn't forecast that right now based on what I'm seeing. I feel pretty comfortable with what I'm going with at the moment, which is 9 to 12. And, if it winds up being, there winds up being some upside from there, and it turns out to be higher, it turns out to be higher. All right, folks, got to call it a day here. Get ready to hit the road. 6 o'clock tonight, Eastern time. We will live stream again right here on YouTube. I will be also live streaming on Facebook tonight at 9:15 p.m. Eastern time. We'll have the Joe Cioffi show. So join me. You can do that by liking my Facebook page and liking Joe Ray, or liking Joe Rayo's Facebook page, or both. But you can access that live stream tonight on my Facebook page, meteorologist Joe Cioffi. Latest website posts, and there's a bunch of them this morning. You might want to take a look, including all the National Weather Service snowfall forecast maps from Virginia to Maine, and that's on meteorologistjoecioffi.com. Angry Ben has got New York City taken care of. New York City issues with this at nycweathernow.com. And thank you for all the new subscribers that have joined. Thank you very much for joining us here. We're live streaming here at least once a day, and in a storm situation like this, we'll be on twice. And who knows, I might even pop in a third time, depending on one thing or another. So thank you for being here, and please do subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Do subscribe and join us on a regular basis. All right, folks, get ready for the snow. We'll see you later.